As a child, I was pretty ambitious. I was sure I would grow up and change the world. There were so many things to be done and ways to do them, people to reach and lives to transform, all these endless possibilities. This was a thrilling prospect for me. I always had this deep, innate urge that kept pushing me and telling me and making me uncomfortable, telling me over and over again, I had to go out and do something. I had to change something, give something back. My art teacher and mentor told me, first you give the system what it wants, then you can go out and change it. So I studied, I traveled, I intellectualized, and I observed lives and people in different places. And I started to become aware of the immensity of the world, of its density and complexity, and how all of this existed in each one of us. And it seemed to me that the one area that could always answer was culture and art. Now think for a minute about your travels and memories of places. What made them special? For sure, the food and the sights, but perhaps more important were the human interactions that you had. And what about the ways in which you experienced a place through its public spaces, the creativity that you witnessed on a walk through a place, or even on your daily commute? Think of when you see an installation or a performance in a public space. What happens? People, busy people, stop. They gather, they smile, they interact with each other. They take joy in sharing with their children. They might even speak to a stranger. People come together in these brief moments of a shared experience and then disperse again out into the veins of the city, going on with their day. But the experience stays, and perhaps we even go on to tell someone about it later. I realized that what made a place special for me was how I spent my time there in these shared spaces, the art that I encountered on the street. These were the experiences that left the greatest imprint, that got me tingling, and made me feel connected to the rest of humanity in ways that a museum or a concert hall experience just could not achieve. Of all the concerts that I've attended, the single most memorable experience of music I have is hearing a Mongolian throat singer on the streets of Amsterdam. I had no idea what he was singing about. I didn't know him or his story or his people, but his voice resonated with me, and I traveled the world and time through his song that he offered out in the city. And so I came to know what it was that I wanted to work for, what I had to work for. But taking on the world alone is not very realistic, and it's not as much fun as doing it collectively. So 2 years ago, I joined Urban Guerillas. And together we share a vision for inclusive and healthy city life through the creative use of public space. Nicosia is an amazing place. It is small and big, like those babies who are born into the world with an old soul. It is characterized as much by its modernity as it is by its history. It is noisy and quiet, fast and slow. It is stunning, ugly, chaotic, and charming. Yes, it is divided, but it's also porous. And it is peaceful for all its diversity and its troubles. It is a remarkably tolerant place. The sun is intense, and the shade is rare. The buses are too big. The cars are too many. We park on pavements. We turn without signaling. We even leave our car running and the air conditioning on while we go inside to the bakery. We spend far too much time in our cars and on our smartphones and in the mall. We cut down old trees to make room for wider roads. And we beep at cyclists for getting in our way. Yeah. It happened to me too. We have limited public seating, and we have just 2 streets in the center that are pedestrian only. And then there are the open-air markets and the high-end boutiques and the carpenters' workshops, they're from another era. And creative pockets of people leaving their mark. Food from just all over the world. And then there's the light and the colors that it creates on the rooftops, the palm trees that silhouette the skyline, and the call to prayer and the church bells that rise and blend in the soundscape of the city. In Nicosia, we face largely uncharted territory. There's very little research on public spaces, and only a few examples of projects that really explore this area. Rather, the narrative is dominated by the division of the city, this space that is no man's land, this echoing in-between space that separates one part of the city from its other half. But for urban guerillas, these in-between spaces are everywhere, separating the private domains, shopping, the inside of your car, your home life, from the shared, and separating us from each other. And so we ask, what is public space? Who is it for? What is it for? Who does it belong to? What is private and what is public? And how can we encourage everyone to make use of public space as a forum for human expression and interaction to bring democratic values forward? We must think critically and ask questions. Keep the windows in our imaginations open. I think that's the way to a free and tolerant, creative and imaginative society. That's the kind of place I want to live in. That's the kind of place that's the kind of place I work to create for my 2 daughters. So how do we work? Well, as urban guerillas, we see opportunity everywhere. Every corner, every alley, every open space. It generates new ideas for us. It represents a new project. In talking to people, over 2,000 people, we found out that public space in Cyprus still has a lot of room for improvement, a lot of potential. And sadly, we appear to be following an American trend where we value the accessibility of a place by car, and we even consider malls to be public spaces. In Nicosia, like in many Mediterranean cities, cafe culture dominates the scene. It even crowds public space. It blurs the lines between what is private and what is public. Our largest project so far was the Green Urban Lab, installed temporarily for just a day or 2 in various locations around the island. These structures were created through a collaborative design and construction process. We worked with students from the University of Nicosia and with specialists from the field, Unpacked from Rome and Plastique Fantastique from Berlin. We had open calls to invite participation in these workshops, and we asked the public what kind of activities would they like to host inside and around these inflatables. Then we took these large, new, airy structures, and we placed them next to or within historic sites around the island. And in this way, we were creating contrasts of permanence and temporariness, old and new, inside and outside, private and public. The structures became multi-use, functioning as performance space, DJ venue, workshop space, exhibition area, while also themselves being design objects that attracted the curiosity of passers-by of all ages. Some people would just observe, others would have to get in and explore further. My 4-year-old just loved to run up against them and they would bounce back, She just found this delightful. In other situations, the inflatable became a platform for community engagement at once offering artist canvas space, a projection wall, and even a play area. And all of this was open and free for the public. In the words of Jan Gehl, cultures and climates differ all over the world, but people are the same. They'll gather in public if you give them a good place to do it. Yeah, I like that. I like that too. What I love most about these structures, though, apart from their obvious aesthetic beauty, is their ephemeral nature. They appear in a place and they change it momentarily, and then they're gone again. While they leave no trace, they bring lasting change. The visitor to the site is given the opportunity to see the place with new eyes, to reimagine it, to even question its function and its accessibility in the city. Then later, when you return to the site and the installation's not there, the change remains in your memory. These moments color us. They add light to our day. They take us out of our routine, and they remind us to just pause, to take joy, and to be spontaneous. These experiences, I think, change us, and they build and they speckle our identities, both within our own selves and within the places where we live. Our mapping and interviews with people before and during our activities showed us that the installations dramatically increased curiosity and the numbers of visitors to the sites. But perhaps even more importantly, the structures stimulated playful exploration and interaction, again, even among strangers. Overall, people reported a very positive experience of visiting the sites. And among our achievements so far, we consider the most important to be the active, enthusiastic participation of a wide and diverse public. One couple said, "We live here and we've never been to this site until your event today." Claiming our urban public spaces is a common right, and yet our individual experiences within them will be unique as each one of us. In a neighborhood event, we installed one of the inflatables along a narrow street. It was practically touching the buildings at one end. One neighbor talked about how she had to squeeze by to get to her front door, and how she thought this was irritating at first, and then she immediately found the humor and the play in questioning and looking again at the space outside her own home. When we took an old bus from a scrapyard and transformed it into our green urban kitchen, we placed it next to a very busy 4-lane street that goes around the old walled city. And again, through a brief experience, we created awareness about sustainable living, about the environment and city life. And again, through a playful, momentary interaction. Bringing art out into public space is the most democratic act I can think of. It dissolves boundaries and it sparks communication. It creates new pathways of interaction among new combinations of people. The appropriation of public space for creative expression is one of the ways that we claim a basic right to the city, to shared spaces that are extensions of our private living spaces. Public space is a common good, an asset to be shared by all. And a question perhaps for another time. How come we need permission to have simple temporary actions that are creative in the city, and yet we are not consulted as a public when the central square of our city is overhauled using millions of euros of public money, and causing month after month of inconvenience and disturbance in our daily lives? Creative interventions in public space bring a vibrant quality of life to a place, raising its profile, making it more attractive for businesses and visitors. even making it safer. A city also communicates a certain confidence when it allows its people and enables them to express themselves freely, to ask questions about why things are the way they are. William White said, "The street is the river of life through a city, the place where we come together. It is the shared experience of public space that has the power to transform us, forming an invisible web that connects us. Art in our city's public spaces is the expression and reminder of our common humanity." And so I grew up a little bit, and I got a tiny bit more realistic. Maybe I can't change the whole world, at least not all at once, and definitely not alone. But as urban guerillas, we can transform just some moments. Those moments, in turn, cause gentle ripples across the city and out into the world. These are the changes that happen in small degrees. These are the sparks that crack open the dry, dark places in our minds and let light and life in. And those transformed moments are the magic nodes of interaction that bring lasting change. For urban dwellers, the city is our common. So take a good look at public space in all its forms and at how you're using it. And then question it, reimagine it, claim it, and live it.